What is up, fellow Hoops fans? Welcome back to yet another episode of The Last Shot NBA show here on Little Birdie TV. As always, brought to you by our great mates over there at topsport.com.au. Now, today's the last day of what seems like a long NBA regular season. It's been quite a journey. There's been a lot of basketball played, a lot of bad basketball played, but mostly some pretty good basketball. I can hear BK laughing in the background already. Let's just welcome BK in, and then we can just trash all the bad teams. BK, how are you, my man?
I'm good, my brother. We made it. We made it last day of the regular season.
Happy last day of the NBA regular season. Look, in saying all of that, right? Look, I am wearing my New York Knicks sweater today, so I don't exclude my own team from that bad basketball that I've talked about. Listen, mate, we've played a lot of bad basketball, I admit it. But look, we're down to the final day of the regular season. Look, these playoff seedings, BK, they're still not set in stone. Some of them are, some of them are not. There's still a lot of, things to play for today. Some teams are resting a lot of guys. Other teams are going for it. We're going to get straight into it, BK. All right. What we do know, we're going to start with the Eastern Conference. So what we do know is Miami's locked into that first seed. Seedings 5 through 10 are already locked in as well, so nothing can change there. The only thing that can change is seeds 2, 3, and 4. Now, Milwaukee this morning lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers. They lost pretty big too. Rested Giannis, rested a few of their players. Their leading scorer was Thanasi Antetokounmpo, not the Antetokounmpo you would have expected to be leading the team in scoring. But Milwaukee kind of just said, hey, fuck the 2 seed. We don't want any parts of any Brooklyn matchup in a first round. So if Boston win today against the Grizzlies, who are resting a ton of guys, I think they've got about 8-9 guys that they're resting. So if they beat the Grizzlies today, then Boston locks in that 2 seed. But if Boston loses and Philly wins, then Philly overtakes Boston into third. Milwaukee, the most they can drop down to is third, but if Philly wins and Boston loses, then Milwaukee stay in. BK, it's blowing my mind. It's blowing my mind.
It's Milwaukee, Boston, or Philly.
Yeah, listen, I feel like in Good Will Hunting, where they're looking at that maths equation on the board, trying to figure it out. I can't figure it out, BK. What do you make of everything?
It's a chaotic final day of the season, and as you said, it's going to be interesting considering the Nets just make this such an interesting factor with that 2-7 matchup, and they've got the Cavs in that playing game. The assumption is they'll get through. So if you're the Bucks and the Celtics, ideally you don't want to face the Nets, but I respect the Celtics for saying they're going for it. This is what Ime Udoka said, talking about Brooklyn. They have the playing game. You can't run from teams, and they may not even end up being there. What we concluded was let's do it and let the chips fall where they may. So I like that. They're not trying to game the system. They're going out there trying to, win every game. And in all likelihood, if they win this game today, they do end up taking on the Nets in the first round, which is going to be a lot of fun because, Kevin Durant versus Jason Tatum, we've already seen what that matchup's like this season.
And look, there's a bit of a spanner in the works too, because he's not going to play in the playing games. We already know that. But if you saw any footage, BK, from this morning, Ben Simmons was out on the court warming up with the Brooklyn Nets. Apparently, Steve Nash said that he's progressed quite a lot in his efforts to get back. So if they somehow get through that play-in stage, Nets could have Ben Simmons back. And I think it was Steve Nash again who kind of said that he sees him filling like a Draymond Green role for the Brooklyn Nets during the playoffs. And man, if they're going to be dangerous. Like, throw that into the equation for the Brooklyn Nets. That's going to be a scary opponent for any team.
Yeah, that is frightening. If you can just throw Ben Simmons onto the court and say, hey, you just play defense, rebound, and push the ball in transition, that adds a whole nother dimension, even if it's only, 20 minutes a night, because the Nets, they're lacking in depth and they're lacking in defense as well. So you just get an all-star caliber guy that you can just throw back into a first round series. That's that's something that teams may not be prepared for, and it's going to help the Nets hugely if that is the case. But I'm excited. It'd just be great to see Simmons back out on the court, because the clip that we saw this morning, that was the most kind of movement we've seen from him.
Yeah.
In a pregame warm up or any film really.
It's true. I agree with you 100%, BK. Let's just quickly go back to Boston for a second, right? So let's assume that things stay as they are, right? I don't think they're going to lose to the Grizzlies today just because Memphis is resting so many guys. But if things stay the way that they are, we're going to have Miami versus the 8th seed in the first round, Milwaukee versus the 7th seed. Again, this is if things remain as they are. Milwaukee is still in second for now. We're going to have Boston versus Chicago. And then we're going to have Philadelphia versus Toronto in that 4 versus 5 matchup. The Raptors are already locked into that 5 seed. I kind of I'm looking at that, BK. We kind of touched on this before the show a little bit. That matchup for Philadelphia is not going to be easy. Having to play Toronto and beat them 4 times is going to be very, very tough for them because, like you mentioned, Toronto holds the season series over them. What was it? They 3-1 in the
3-1, yeah.
Toronto is not going to be a pushover. Out. They're going to be a very tough out, BK.
I mean, the advantage you have in Philadelphia is obvious. It's Joel Embiid, the scoring champion, one of the best big men in the league. And the Raptors, for all their hustle and heart, they're a small team. They play 5 guys that are between, 6'4" and 6'9", 6'10". The only real kind of effective big men are Achua. We've seen Siakam, absorb a lot of minutes there at the 4 as well. So the size of the Sixers could overwhelm the Raptors. But at the same time, the Raptors, their versatility on defense, they just have a lot of guys out there that play hard. That's not going to be easy for the 76ers. And then as well, you throw in Matisse Thybulle could potentially not be there for those road games as well in Toronto. I don't know. That's not a series I think the Sixers would have wanted for a first round matchup.
Certainly not. And look, they may not have the height in terms of having big players, but they've got the length, man. Because those guys that they've got there are long. They've got incredible wingspans. They're very versatile, like you mentioned. They can switch it up on defense. That's I agree with you. I don't think that's a matchup Philadelphia wanted first up. But, the impetus is on them now to get that win today and then hope by some miracle that Boston lose to the Memphis Grizzlies. I don't even know if they're fielding a G League team today, to be perfectly honest. I think they might have just gotten 3 guys off Beale Street in Memphis to make up the numbers. It's going to be very interesting. Look, last day of the regular season, everything's in play. It's chaos. Today is going to be chaos. We've already seen it with the Milwaukee Bucks, who just said, hey, we're just going to rest some guys and get ready for the playoffs. So anything can happen. The play-in games obviously are set. It's going to be Brooklyn versus Cavaliers, Atlanta versus Charlotte. Obviously, the winner of Brooklyn Cavaliers plays Milwaukee, like we said. The winner of Atlanta versus Charlotte plays the loser of that 7v8 matchup. And then the winner of that goes on to play, well, they get the luxury of playing the Miami Heat in that first round. BK, let's move over to the Western Conference for a little bit. So more chaos over in the West. So we already know that Phoenix is locked into that number 1 seed. Memphis is locked into that number 2 seed. Golden State, I believe, need a win today, BK, from what I can remember. So the Warriors can clinch number 3 seed today with a win, or if the Mavericks lose. If the Warriors lose and the Mavericks win, the Warriors would be the number 4 seed. So there's a bit to play for over there. And then as far as the Jazz can clinch the 5 seed with a win. If the Jazz lose and the Nuggets win, the Jazz would fall to the 6th seed in the West. We already have the play-in games locked in. Minnesota versus the LA Clippers and New Orleans versus San Antonio. BK, what's it looking like for you over in the West?
Equally as chaotic as the Eastern Conference, but the playing games for me are the intriguing part of the Western Conference. I really like the Clippers coming into this against the Timberwolves, but the Timberwolves, we talk about the playing being a fun sort of part of the season. The Timberwolves, they finished 5 full games ahead of the Clippers. So let's not pretend like the Timberwolves haven't had a good season. This has been one of their best finishes in recent memory. So that's going to be a tricky contest because we've seen what Anthony Edwards has done this season. Towns has been amazing this season. This is not going to be a an easy kind of game. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's honestly, either of those two teams that advance through to the playoffs. If the loser will then take on the winner of that 9-10 game. That 7-8 matchup's going to be spicy.
No, look, I think Minnesota obviously has been the better team overall than the Clippers so far this season. Obviously, we discussed the Clippers' injury problems, ad nauseum this season. I like Minnesota probably. I think that would be the favorite to get through. But in a one-off game, anything can happen, right? And the Clippers are well coached. They've got a very strong nucleus of guys there that's probably overachieved given everything they've had to deal with this season. But I agree with you. I actually like both of these teams to come out of it because I think New Orleans will beat San Antonio because I think New Orleans is a better team than San Antonio. But I don't know if New Orleans has enough to get by the loser of that Minnesota Clippers game.
I agree. I mean, I like the Pelicans. They've been fun this season, especially considering how badly they started the season to now find themselves in a playing situation. But ultimately, I think in these one-off games, it may come down to who is the best player on the floor. And, when you look at the Timberwolves and Clippers, I think it's Paul George. And then when you look at, say they lose against the Pelicans or the Spurs, it's still Paul George. So
look, I hear you, right? And I agree that Paul George probably is the best player, on both of those teams, right? Overall. But I just feel like this season, I think Cat, like you said, Cat's had an incredible year. And I think that's kind of gone a little bit overlooked because he does play in Minnesota. I think Cat's had the better season. Obviously, I know Paul George has been injured, but I just feel like Cat can also carry that burden just as well as Paul George. If you understand what I'm saying.
I don't disagree with that. This is going to be fun. I was a skeptic of the play-in tournament when it was first introduced, but I'm all in. I'm 10 toes in. I love the play-in.
Yeah, me too. I was very skeptical. I was like, here we go. But no, this has actually brought a ton of excitement towards the end of the season. As far as these other matchups, BK, again, assuming things stay as they are, Phoenix, Memphis, Warriors, and Dallas in those top 4 seeds. Do you see any upsets? Do you see any dark horses coming out of that? Or do we like the favorites to progress on?
I think so. I like the Warriors and I like the Mavericks either in a 4-5 or a 3-6. If we do get the Mavs in the 3 seed, a Doncic versus Jokic first round series, that has potential for some fireworks. But again, I think the Mavs have the better team there. But just that one-on-one matchup, if we do get that could be saucy for the first round. Yeah, the Battle of the Balkans. I wouldn't be mad at that one there. Doncic versus Jokic. I'm with you. I like the favorites or who would be the favorites to come out of those. Let's just go back to the East and see. Do you see any upsets in the East? Any dark horses in the East, BK? Or again, because I'm looking at that top 4 and I think they're the 4 clear best teams in the East. I mean, I like Toronto as well, but I don't know how far they can go with that sort of shorter roster that they've, or the lack of depth, I should say, that they have. Do you see any upsets in the East? I think the Raptors will push the 76ers, but I think over the course of a 7-game series, like that one will easily go 6 games. Like if the Sixers are to emerge, but I think it'll be a grind. But again, like you said, the depth of the Raptors, I think they may just come up short in that one. The Bulls are in a tailspin at the moment. Like from where they started this season to now, coming up against either the Celtics or the Bucks there in that 3 seed. I can't see the Bulls doing anything against either of those teams. The only real upset is what happens with the Brooklyn Nets. Who do they take on in that first round? Because that really is the one that could just kind of blow the doors off this postseason race and really kind of throw a spanner in the works for a lot of these teams. That's the one I'm looking out for. Yeah, same. They're the only team outside that top 4 that can actually do something. And, when you look at them, they're not your traditional 8 seed or 9 seed or whatever it may be. Generally those teams are just making up the numbers. The Brooklyn Nets are the 8th or not. What are they? The 9th, 8th seed. I 8 seed, yeah.
8 seed. My numbers are so bad.
Sorry, they climbed to the 7th seed.
The 7th, but
it's changing by the minute.
It's changing by the minute, but they're there for a reason, and that reason is they haven't had Kyrie Irving because of his vaccination status. They've had a lot of injuries. Durant misses 27 odd games as well, so that's why that they're there. It's not because they're a bad team or they just don't have the talent. They've got the talent. Any team with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, I don't care if they're a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10 seed, they're going to be dangerous. So they're the only team outside that top 4 that can do some damage in the playoffs. But I look at the West, right, and there's no one really outside that top 4 that I think, and that's that current top 4. Again, things could change, but I'm talking about Phoenix, Memphis, Golden State, and Dallas. I don't see anyone outside that top 4 really doing anything in the playoffs.
I mean, it really feels like we're waiting for the Suns-Grizzlies Western Conference Finals at this point. There's good teams in the West, but there is a sense of inevitability about this, more so from the Phoenix Suns. The Grizzlies is the interesting one because we've seen them torch through the regular season. Can they make that happen in the postseason? They got that first taste in the first round last season against the Jazz. This is a different proposition. You're coming in with a lot more expectation as the 2 seed that's been one of the best defensive teams this year.
Yeah, look, all right, BK, we've been giving our championship predictions all year, right? So we're not going to talk about championship predictions. Let's get conference finals predictions right now. You've just said Phoenix and Memphis in the West, correct?
Bingo.
All right, I'm also agreeing with that one there. Let's go back to the East. Conference finalists in the East.
Ooh, this is where it gets tricky. I've got to put the Bucks there.
Me too, yep.
And then it gets tough. I would probably have to say, I mean, I feel like the Heat are the most slept on 1 seed maybe ever. Like we're not really giving them the credit that they probably deserve. I'll probably say that the Heat sneak there. I think they can grind their way through there.
Yeah, this one's tough, right? It's tough.
I say that with no confidence whatsoever.
Yeah. This one's tough because I'm looking at these matchups and obviously we still don't know who's playing who because things aren't cemented yet. I agree with you though that Miami is being slept on because everyone's talking about Milwaukee. They're talking about Boston. A lot of people are talking about Boston coming out of the East, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if they do because I finally have to admit that they're a pretty good team. I don't think Philadelphia has enough, right, to make the conference finals. And that's just more so I have no faith in James Harden to show up for big games because he's got a track history of not doing that. So, look, gun to my head right now, I'm going to go Miami, Milwaukee in the conference finals too. I agree with you, BK.
Yeah, I mean, the Nets could throw a spanner in that. And the Celtics, they deserve respect. They're going to be a tough matchup for anybody. But I just feel the Heat, they haven't really been at their best because of availability. But when they have had all hands on deck, we've seen Tyler Herro run away with the 6th Man of the Year award. I mean, Butler and Adebayo, Lowry, they've all missed time. But if we can get this team that's built for the playoffs, this is a playoff team that can grind things out, they can play defense, and they have shot makers as well.
Yeah,
I think the Miami Heat are going to surprise some people as much as you can as a number 1 seed. Yeah.
Look, it's bring it on, BK. Bring it on. Play-in tournament starts on Thursday, I think our time. Wednesday our time.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun, man. It's gonna be fun. All right. There was 15 games on the schedule today. Every team was playing. 4 began at 5 a.m. 4 tipped off, I believe, at 9 a.m. So we're going to take a look at just a few more that there's some playoff implications for. We're going to take a look at 4 of those games. We're going to start off with the Chicago Bulls and the Minnesota Timberwolves today. We've got the odds right here. The Minnesota Timberwolves favorites, as they should be, $1.33. Chicago Bulls, $3.40. Like you said, BK, they've been in a tailspin. I think their season's done. They're cooked. The line's at -7. Total's at 229 even. Live on NBA League Pass today. BK, who do you like in this one?
Yeah, I'll rock with the Timberwolves in this one. I'll follow the money with this one. The Bulls, probably aren't putting out a full complement today either.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going with the money on this one here to Minnesota Timberwolves. Like I said, the Bulls are done. Their season's over. I'm calling it right now. Next game on the schedule, we've got the Golden State Warriors and New Orleans Pelicans. Pelicans already locked into their seeding. Golden State Warriors, they've got a bit to play for, so they're $1.35 favorites. Pelicans $3.20. The line's at 6.5. Total is at 221. Live on ESPN today. BK, I'm going with the money again on this one here. I think the Warriors want to lock in that number 3 seed. I don't think they want to drop down to 4th, and I think they get the W today.
Yeah, I agree. The Pelicans don't have anything to play for in this one, and the Warriors, they most certainly do. They want that high seeding, so I'll go with the Dubs today.
All right, 2 out of 2. We agree on today. Next game on the schedule, we've got the LA Lakers. They've still got one more game, and we're still talking about them.
Do we need to do this?
LA Lakers, $4.50. Denver Nuggets, $1.22. The line's at -9.5. Total, 229 even. Live on NBA League Pass. We could just skip through this one and both agree on the Nuggets, right, BK?
I think that's safe to say.
Okay, done. We're moving on to the Spurs and the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks, again, they've got quite a bit to play for. Could maybe sneak into the 3rd seed in the West. So they're $1.22 favorites. San Antonio Spurs, they're already locked in. So they're $4.20. The line's at -10. Total is at 223.5. Live on NBA League Pass. Look, the Spurs are locked in, don't have much to play for, but they're not going to roll over, I don't think. It's going to be a close one. These Texas battles always are, for the most part. But I like the Mavericks. I think the Mavericks have just got too much. And like I said, they've got something to play for. They can maybe get that number 3 seed. So Dallas is winning this one today.
Yeah, Doncic had that 16th technical rescinded as well, so he will play against the Spurs. And that ultimately is the difference.
Yes, right there. Luka Doncic. All right, BK, we're going to catch you again. Enjoy the last day of NBA regular season basketball. Next time we chat, it's going to be a full-on playoff talk, finally. So I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Can't wait, my brother. I'll see you then.
See you then. All right, this has been another episode of the Last Shot NBA show here on Little Birdie TV. As always, brought to you by our great mates at topsport.com.au. We'll catch you guys Wednesday morning.